Hi, this is Katie Schell. I'm an intuitive healer and spiritual counselor. I work with several modalities, including astrology, aromatherapy, and embodied movement. This is an astrology video, and what I'm going to be talking about is progressions, especially lunar progressions, because they always indicate a shift in focus on what's important to us in our lives, what our priorities are. And so, what a progression is, kind of the simplified version, is where the planets were. Um, every day you were born, you layer them on top of your natal chart for every year you're alive. So if you're 30 years old, we're looking at the position of the planets from when you were 30 days old and how they are interacting with your birth chart, your natal chart, which is the thing that most of us look at to kind of understand our personality and all of that. That is the blueprint that we came in with the moment we were born. So unlike transits, so a transit is where the planets are right now. And so let's say Saturn right now is at 16 degrees in Pisces. So people are being affected by that kind of as a collective. You have to have something being activated within your chart, but there's a really good chance you are. So if it's at 16 degrees Pisces, maybe anyone in between 13 and 19 degrees Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Gemini is going to be affected by it. If you have, or trines, you're going to have, it's going to be a different kind of effect with Scorpio, Cancer, and then sextiles, which are going to be Capricorn and Taurus. So you're looking at a whole big chunk of the population that are going to be affected by this. And by Saturn being in Pisces. And if you don't have something within those few degrees of Pisces, you probably had something, or of all of those other signs, you probably have something somewhere within one of those signs. So even if you're not affected by it right now, you will be soon, or you just were. And so, again, that's something that is happening to the collective and that we're all experiencing in very different ways, but we're all experiencing kind of this Saturnian Pisces energy right now. With the progressions, it's very individual because it's your progress chart on your natal chart. So we're looking at how it activates that. And so we look at, again, so with the outer planets on that, they don't move very far those few years. So they don't really play a role in how they affect your natal chart, the longer moving planets. What does make a difference are the shorter or the faster moving planets. So we look at Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars to a lesser extent. And if they're activating something, it is a significant milestone. It is a significant shift. It is a significant focus. But that doesn't happen very often either. It'll happen. But what we really like, for me, I have my progressed sun is actually hitting like 4 things in a row right now. So I am in a significant place with what my progressed sun is doing. But once it moves off there, it's not going to have a real big impact on me. And then like my progressed Venus, when I'm in my 50s, mid 50s, is going to hit my Neptune. So that'll be an interesting time to see what that happens. But again, this is something that's very selective and kind of a little bit like a year here and a year there. The thing that plays the most significant role is the progressed moon, because the regular moon moves in a 28-day cycle. The progressed moon moves in a 28-year cycle. So it moves in kind of that sweet spot where it's short enough that we notice it, that it makes a change, but it's long enough where it has some time to kind of marinate and shift things, and we become a little bit more, again, focused on wherever it is. So there's kind of 3 things that I pay attention to with the progressed moon. 1 is the shift from house and sign. 2 is the progressed new moon, and 3 is a progressed lunar return. So progressed lunar return is a predictable time. That happens the same for everybody. It happens at about 26, 27, and then again at like 54, 55, somewhere around about that. And so that's again a significant milestone. The progressed lunar return happens right before our Saturn return, and then it's a little bit more before our second Saturn return. But though is a kind of at a precursor, kind of sets us up. It kind of, that's the internal side, and then the Saturn return is the external side. And I'll get more into this. I'm creating a class right now on cycles in general, using astrology, just using the rhythms of the planet in that, and this will be part of that. But again, the most significant thing, that is the most individual part of it, is when it changes house or sign. And it changes signs are all the same size, so it changes signs for everybody every 2.5 years. Houses are different depending on what time of year, when you were born, and what house system I use Placidus. Some people use Coke. Both of those are going to have various size houses in them. And with that, it might be a 1.5 year, it might be a 3.5 year, depending on where you were born, but it's still kind of close to that 2 to 3 year shift. So what happens again is we shift our focus when it shifts signs or houses. So looking at signs, because that's a little bit more steady and that's a little bit easier to understand, is let's say you are in a progressed Aries. Your progressed moon is in Aries, and it has been for 2.5 years. And which is excitement, it's vibrancy, it's independent, it's warrior energy, where you're just kind of going after things and you're just go, and everything is exciting and you're just doing all the things all of the time, and you're not very focused, and you're like everything. Lots of energy in that Aries, when your progressed moon is in Aries. Then it moves into Taurus, and all of a sudden you will feel this drop in energy, because your whole being is asking you to slow down and kind of evaluate and settle and kind of create some roots and create some foundation for yourself from all of that energy. And if you have a lot of other air and fire in your natal chart, that's going to feel really discombobulating, because suddenly you've been used to having all of this energy, and suddenly you want to nest, and you want to make long luxurious meals, and you want to just kind of chill, and you're going to go spend some time at the spa. That is Taurus energy taking over. And so once you get used to it, once you get a couple months into it, you kind of can feel it. But if you've got a lot of air and fire, which is very active natally, you kind of need to know that this isn't going to last forever. And so I've had to reassure people. I get a lot of people who come in right at the shifts. It's like literally I'll read their chart and I'll be like, oh yeah, your progressed moon just changed 2 or 3 days ago. Or a week ago. And it's really interesting. A lot of people, especially within the Taurus, because I work at a spa, I'll see their progressed moon in Taurus happening. But then you're in that energy for 2.5 years, and then all of a sudden you're in Gemini energy, and Gemini is curious, and suddenly you've been steady and stable for a while, and suddenly you feel kind of flaky and kind of off, and why do I feel so scattered right now? It's because you're curious and you want to take in the world again, because you've had that low now to settle and reflect and reestablish your energy. Now you've got new found energy, and then it goes into Cancer cycle. Cancer cycle is again about, it has that kind of nesting, it has that emotional needs to it. It needs its stability. It needs to be able to feel and express instead of thinking all the time like Gemini does. So when we shift, it's like it takes a minute to adjust to this new kind of energy, because a month ago we were focused on something and we thought that was really important. And the same thing works with the houses. So we switch from one house to the next. Like recently, my progressed moon moved from the 4th house, which is about home and how do we feel safe? How do we feel secure? And during that time, I attracted relationships that made me feel that I needed in order to help me feel more stable and more secure. And then all of a sudden one day, I noticed that my energy had shifted, and it had, because my progressed moon had moved into the 5th house. I knew it was coming. And all of a sudden it was about, I needed more time for myself, for my creativity, for my excitement, to share my unique opinion with the world. And all of these relationships that had been supporting me, all of a sudden I'm asking them to shift, and it's discombobulating for the people around me too. And it isn't necessarily a reflection of that individual relationship. And I talk about a lot about relationships in some of my other videos, and how it's important to communicate, and then we all have different needs, and we evolve and we grow, and we want to evolve and grow together, and blah 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 and blah blah blah. But this I'm in the fifth house right now, so I'm like blah 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 blah. I don't care. I just want to have fun. I want to express myself. I want to do my thing in my way. And so, like, that can feel weird when you've been so focused in the fourth house and be like, I just need to feel safe and secure. And suddenly I'm like, woo, all right. So that shifts. And then we kind of move around this again, just like the signs, we move around the houses. So when we move from, like, say, the 11th house, which is our most social house, our most social friendship, connections, networking house, we move into the 12th house, which is very, very withdrawn. It's about the mysticism. It's about connecting with a higher self. So after having these couple years in high energy, high social experiences, needs, we shift focus to the 12th house, which is about spirituality and connection, and coming back, and again connecting with something that is higher and bigger than ourselves. So it becomes very withdrawn, and then that shifts back into the first house when we are reinventing who we are, because that's what happened, and that's kind of the progression of the house cycles, is and the houses and the signs, as they build off of each other, and they go through these peaks and valleys. And then when we, from 12 to 1, we start again. So 12 is about releasing and letting go of all of the things that we've done. And then the first house, we are ready to reinvent ourselves again. And so just trusting these and knowing these cycles, when you experience a significant shift in your life and you're wondering why, and the regular transits aren't explaining it, probably there is something happening in your progressions. So I love doing these kinds of readings. Again, the CPs often is a focus on when people are asking about things that are going on in their lives, because there's usually something happening with these. I hope this helps. Again, I am working on a class that's going to get really deep into how to work with these cycles. If you'd like a reading or anything else, feel free to email me, katieshell.com. Hope this helps. Have a great day.